Hi everyone! In this video, I'm going to show you how to multiply decimals. So I'm going to first show you some easier examples on the left side, such as 12 times 34, 12 times 3.4, and 1.2 times 3.4. After that, I'm going to introduce a rule for multiplying decimals for the problems on the right side. In the middle of the video, I will also show you why we apply those specific rules. So before we multiply decimals, I want to show you how to multiply whole numbers first, because it will be very useful for later on. So let's take 12 times 34 for example. We want to first write down the number 12. And then you want to write 3 underneath 1 because they are both in the tens place, and you write 4 underneath 2 because they are both in the ones place. So now that we write them vertically, you can start multiplying. So first we want to multiply 12 by 4. So 2 times 4 is 8, and 1 times 4 is 4. So 12 times 4 is 48. And then we want to multiply 12 by 30. So what you're going to do is you're going to first multiply 2 by 3, you get 6, and you write 6 underneath 4 because that's on the tens place. And that's basically saying we are multiplying 2 by 30 and we get 60, right? So we can write a 0 here. And then we want to multiply 1 by 3 and we will get 3. So we write on the hundreds place, and that basically means we are multiplying 10 by 30 and we get 300. So you know that 60 plus 300 thus gives us 360. Alright, so now we just need to add 48 and 360 together. So start from right to left. 8 plus 0 is 8, 4 plus 6 is 10, so we write down 0 and carry the 1 over to the hundreds place, and 3 plus 1 gives us 4. So the answer of this problem is 408. So the second example is 12 times 3.4. The only change is the second factor. It has changed from 34 to 3.4. So what you're going to do is, again, you're going to line up the two numbers, and you're going to think of it as first you're multiplying 12 by 34. Same thing. So I'm going to write down 12, and I'm going to write down 34, and I'll put a decimal point here for now. Alright, so we just follow the same process, and you should be able to get 408 again. But since this is 3.4, not 34, you want to change your final product to 40.8. And I'm going to prove to you why we're doing it this way. So let's show our work horizontally now. So basically we have 12 times 34 divided by 10. And we want to group this because we know 34 divided by 10 equals 3.4. And it's the same thing as 12 times the product of 34 and 0.1. Because 34 divided by 10 is equivalent to 34 times 0.1. You will get 3.4 on both sides. Alright, so now that we have 12 times 34 times 0.1, I can apply the associate property of multiplication, and I will write the product of 12 and 34 times 0.1 instead. And from the previous example, we already know that the product of 12 and 34 is 408, so 408 times 0.1 gives us 40.8. So that's why we change our product to 40.8. And let's look at the next example to make connection. So for the next example, again, I'm going to think of this as I'm multiplying the whole numbers 12 and 34 first. And I'm going to write decimal point here for now. And following the same procedure, I know that my product for the two whole numbers would be 408. But this time, we have 1.2 instead of 12, and we have 3.4 instead of 34. So that means I'm going to change my product to 4.08, and I'm going to show you why by showing the horizontal steps. So here we originally have 12 times 34, but then based on the problem above, we know that 12 changed to 1.2, so that means we have 12 divided by 10, and that's the quotient. And then we multiply by the quotient of 34 and 10, because 34 divided by 10 is 3.4. So we can rewrite this using only multiplication. So then we will have the product of 12 and 0.1 times the product of 34 and 0.1. And now I'm going to get rid of my parentheses because it doesn't matter if you have them or not, you will get the same result. Okay, and then I'm going to apply commutative property of multiplication. So I'm going to move 12 and 34 together first, and then I multiply by 0.1 twice. So from the first example, we know 12 times 34 is 408. And 0.1 times 0.1 is 0.01. And that's why our answer is 4.08. So now you should get an idea right here. When you're multiplying a decimal by a decimal, you want to first multiply as with whole numbers. And then to place the decimal point, you find the sum of the number of decimal places in each factor, and the product has the same number of decimal places. So for example, in the second example, we have one decimal place, and that's why in our final result we have one decimal place. In the third example, we have two decimal places together, and that's why in our final product we have two decimal places. So I've put the first three rules on top of this video. Let's continue to explore more types of problems. The next problem is to multiply 1.2 by 0.34. So here we're going to again follow the first rule, multiply as with whole numbers. So think of it as we're multiplying the two whole numbers 12 and 34. After you write it down like this, then you place the decimal points. So based on what we already did for the previous problems, we know that 12 times 34 gives us 408. And then we're going to look at the second rule. It says find the sum of number of decimal places in each factor. The first number has one decimal place, and the second number has two decimal places. So together they have three decimal places. That means we will need to start from here and then go three places. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to place our decimal point here. And since the decimal point is right in front of 4, we're going to write a 0 in front of the decimal point. So the final answer of this problem is 0.408. And to quickly show you why the answer works this way, again I write down the horizontal steps. So 1.2 is equivalent to 12 times 0.1. 0.34 is equivalent to 34 times 0.01. After I take out the parentheses, I can apply a commutative property of multiplication by writing 12 times 34 times 0.1 times 0.01. and 12 times 34 is 408. 0.1 times 0.01 is 0.001, and that's why the final answer is 0.408. Next example, 0.12 times 0.0034. So first I write down 12 times 34 vertically, and then I will place my decimal point and the zeros. And make sure you line up the numbers so you can count accurately later. Okay, so 12 times 34 again gives us 408. And we are going to count the sum of the number of decimal places now. So first one has 2 decimal places, second one has 4 decimal places, and together we have 6 decimal places. So we're going to start from here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we know we need to put a decimal point here. And we want to fill in the empty spaces with 0. So 1, 2, 3. And we also want to put a 0 in front of the decimal point. So our final answer of this problem is 0.000408. So for the last problem, we need to multiply 1.002 by 3.004. We are going to follow the first rule by thinking we're multiplying 1002 by 3004. And then we're going to place the decimal point. Alright, so now let's multiply the numbers. 2 times 4 is 8. 1 times 4 is 4. So we're going to place the 4 right here, because 1002 times 4 gives us 4008. So we put 0 here and 0 here. And then we're going to multiply 2 by 3 gives us 6. And then we have 2 0, 3 times 0 is 0, 3 times 0 is 0, and 3 times 1 is 3. Because we are basically multiplying 1002 by 3000. And that should give us 3006000. And we read this number as 3,006,000. Okay, so we're going to add the digits together. So 8 plus 0 is 8, and then we have 0 plus 0 equals 0, and 0 here. 4 times 6 is 10, so we write down the 0 and then carry the 1 over. And then the next one is just 0, and we bring down the 3. And now we're going to follow the next rule by finding the sum of the number of decimal places. So for the first decimal number, we have 3 decimal places. For the second number, we have 3 decimal places. Together we have 6 decimal places. So we're going to start from here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that means our final answer is 3.010008.